Hey, welcome everybody. It's Expedition STEM. I am your host, Andrew.
And I'm the co-host, Chris.
And today is May 28th, and welcome to our weekly STEM. So we couldn't do it yesterday on our usual day of Friday, so we're doing it on Saturday. Chris, how was your week?
So far, so good. It ended with picking strawberries with my daughter, which is always fun. And yes, I guess that makes me a softie. But no, it was a good week. Not much going on tech-wise here, except meeting a lot of people who are making some really cool things in the incubator that we sit in here, including a new company that's doing some interesting things with car sales, believe it or not. But how are things for you? Congratulations on the win for the NASA award. It's good to hear some smarts are at least on one half of the broadcast here.
Which half would that be?
That'd be the red half, Team Red, not Team Yellow.
Okay. Yeah, so for those of you who've been kind of following along or just sort of joining, I participated in an event called the International Space Apps Challenge run by NASA, and it was conducted just about a month ago during the last weekend of April. And the team that I was on with two other people, we won 1 out of 5 categories. There was about 1,200 teams, about 15,000 people that competed, and there's 5 major categories, and we won one of them. We won Best Mission Concept. So really excited for that. That means we get to go down to Cape Canaveral and attend a launch, which is slated right now for September 8th.
You mean you don't get to go to space camp?
I think that, like, I want to go to space camp. I just don't know if people will accept me there. Even though they do have an adult space camp, which is, I wonder who exactly goes there.
Well, you're tall enough to fit into the kids' space camp, so.
That's true. Maybe I could get a discount.
Yeah. Just shave.
Yeah. So we're excited about that. Great, fantastic news. We'll probably do an episode separate just about that with the teammates and everything. Yeah, so happy to see that. And not much going on else over here. So
any other progress on your robot project or other things you I think the Space Apps Challenge took priority away from your Nerf gun.
Yeah, we haven't gotten back to the Nerf bot project, but Joe, who is joining me in that sort of like one-on-one competition, he just got a laser cutter yesterday, and I kind of
put a laser on the drone, put a laser on the robot.
There'll be a laser pointer. I don't know about anything that's too harmful, but he got a laser cutter yesterday. We did an unboxing, which video will probably be posted within a week. And yeah, so I definitely plan to cut out my parts on there because I couldn't really find the right sort of kit or whatever to buy for the Nerf bot to meet all the specifications that I wanted. And so the laser cutter will be able to cut wood or acrylic, whatever I choose to use, probably acrylic, so I can see through it. And yeah, it's pretty awesome. I thought it was just gonna like cut like holes and everything like I wanted, but it can actually do like 3-dimensional surfaces and things like that. So
now is the competition that you guys are building this thing for, is it kind of like a battle bots thing where the bots are fighting against one another? What's the competition?
Yeah, and it's just a one-on-one competition. Like, it's not anything official or run by anybody. It's just but yeah, it's supposed to be like shooting. We haven't really like gone into it. We just kind of said we should build Nerf bots. So obviously I don't think a Nerf dart is gonna like destroy a robot, so we might have to like put up like some like little like targets that it shoots down. I don't know. We haven't really gone into it too much. But yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, well, I build your rules and set up what you're evaluating, or whoever's going to win, put the criteria together. I want to know what makes a winner, what makes a loser in this bot fight challenge. Yeah. Well, you're probably using that to hybridize and bastardize a bunch of things. I mean, we've got Nerf guns and we've got robots. Do you think do you ever think there's a possibility that we could use some sort of hybrid of putting two things together like that in our own biology?
Perhaps.
Possibly, yeah. That might take us to our science story of the morning. The New York Times, NPR, and many other outlets are reporting that scientists around the world are actually trying to find new ways to create a hybrid that would be part human DNA and part, well, pig or unicorn or some other type of DNA using animal DNA in order for us to not only create new new embryos that would have body parts that would then be transplantable. So you might, for example, have a pig or a cow or some sort of large livestock animal that could be growing with a human lung or something that can then be transplantable in the future. The other part of the study would actually be helping to create new models on how human diseases progress. Because right now, not all the diseases that we get are impact animals. And if there was a way for them to carry some of our DNA and at least have an understanding of the disease progression, then you might actually be able to have better research into it. But there's a lot of scientists and bioethicists that, worry that we're crossing the line. We're hitting the bright line where we're going too far with science, too close to science fiction, and there's really an ethical dilemma that's being caused. And, Andrew, what are your thoughts? Is this an area where we are treading too lightly, or is this something that we should at least explore, not necessarily to create a living species, but at least find out if embryos or hybrid cells could unlock new answers?
I would say that I don't mind getting close to science fiction because that means we can get our transporter and our shuttlecrafts and our Enterprise and our light speed. Maybe not the light speed, but yeah, I'm all for doing as much science as possible as long as we're not hurting anybody. And so, but yeah, the whole creating life and that sort of thing is a very touchy subject for people probably because of more of the not so much ethical but religious sort of implications or background.
Well, I think that's part of it. I think you also look at something like for years we've had scientists growing ears on lab rats, on the back of a lab rat, or we've seen how we've actually used monkey organs or pig organs in transplants. That's actually happened in the past. I think the question becomes in what's called a chimera, and which is a species that has two different sets of DNA. Is it something that down to its core is a hybrid in its own right, versus using one life form to create or host apart from a second life form? Can you really have that interspecies DNA entanglement? That's kind of I think where the ethical lines come in question, because now you're creating something. I mean, not to get into the quote unquote bestiality mindset, but now you're creating something that has two distinct DNAs, two separate species, and trying to hybridize them. Is that ethical? And that's a question that the NIH, I guess, is being the one who's going to be handling all the funding requests. They're the ones that are going to have to really say, okay, what are the ethical guidelines on what's being created, how it's being created, to what point the species is alive? Is it only embryonic? Is it brought to full adult life? Those are tough questions.
Yeah, one of the things that one of those articles was talking about was saying that some of these animals would be specifically created to house organs, human organs, for those that are terminally ill or on a list to get a new organ. So it sounds like they definitely want at least some of the life to mature to the point where it's actually living and that sort of thing. And basically, I guess you're going to be probably killing the animal at some point to get its organs out, unless it has like 6 kidneys or something, and you can just get 5 of them. It's really weird to think about. And then, also at what point does it become more human, I guess, than animal?
Mm-hmm.
And then like, does it have human rights? That's really weird.
Yeah, there's a bioethicist that says if you have pigs with partly human brains, would you have animals that might actually have a consciousness and feel pain like humans? Does that give us more empathy to them? Or he also says if a male chimeric pig mated with a female chimeric pig, the result would be a human fetus developed in the uterus of that female chimera. I mean, it's just kind of like we're going into science fiction too far down the line, but still, I mean, there is this possibility of what would happen. I think that the bioethicist that actually wrote that part also doesn't understand that most genetics splices, for example, a liger, a lion and tiger, they're sterile just because of the natural order of things. Any offspring that happen from cross-species pollination end up being sterile. So
Is
just
that
something
like
to
a
think about.
proven thing?
Yeah.
Because the liger's not real, right?
At least for mammals. Any cross species, like a mule. A mule is a horse and a donkey cross, but mules are naturally sterile.
Don't forget, Jeff Goldblum says, "Life finds a way," or "Life will find a way." So this does kind of sound like Jurassic Park. Not to joke too much, because they crossed dinosaur DNA and frog DNA, right? And not that there was an ethical thing there, but things got out of control. It's a movie. I know it's science fiction, but there were some results that they didn't expect. So there's probably definitely going to be, if they go through with this, there's probably going to be some weird stuff that they didn't expect to happen.
Yeah, I just want the cuttlefish DNA of being able to mimic or have like natural camouflage. It would be like Mystique.
I want wings.
You want wings?
What do I got to do to get wings?
What was that character? Not Archangel. Archangel just disappeared, but I forget that guy's name. Yeah. All righty.
All right. So I guess we'll look forward to seeing what they do with those studies. So now we're going to move on to our technology category. And this has to do with the announcement this week from Microsoft and Facebook. They're going to be building an undersea internet cable, and it is going to span from Virginia to Spain. That's pretty, so it's like transcontinental intercontinental data cable. It's going to be called Maria, and is supposed to be completed by October 2017. That's not that too far away for a cable that's going to be laid on the ocean from the US to Europe. That's only about a year away, so that's pretty cool. They said the construction is going to begin in August. It's supposed to be a 6,600 and approximately kilometer cable, and it's going to carry 160 terabits of data per second. So if you don't know what a terabit is, 160 terabits is roughly equivalent to 20,000 gigabytes of data per second. And if 20,000 gigabytes is still sort of like beyond your mind, that's about 4,000 to 5,000 DVDs per second. So all that data, that's pretty fast. So there are cables laying on the floor right now. Some of them are phone lines, that sort of thing, but this one is going to be built by Microsoft and Facebook. So that seems pretty interesting and cool. Dedicated internet line. I wonder if the NSA is going to tap it. But also interesting to note is that Google is working with some Asian investors upon developing a similar cable to go across the Pacific Ocean, going from the United States to Japan. One of the other interesting things is that Microsoft has been experimenting with underwater data centers. So I think underwater cables make sense. Like you can't, fly a cable, from one continent to the next, but having a data center underwater, Microsoft has been experimenting with. So you might ask yourself why they are doing this. Well, turns out that if you walk into one of these data centers, there's like tons of computers. Imagine the electricity bill you have to pay for when you have to, use air conditioning to cool that huge warehouse. Probably really expensive. Well, the reason for underwater data centers is that they can use the water to cool the machines, and also there is renewable energy underwater, like thermal vents and everything like that. You have a lot of geothermic energy underwater, so that's another reason to have those under the water. So both of those things seem pretty cool. It'll be really interesting to see why why this cable is being laid. I mean, I guess the internet works right now, but is it going to make things faster for Europe or faster for the U.S. or just between the two? And underwater data centers. Now you're going to have job listings for scuba divers / computer programmers or something, or you're going to have are they going to take a sub to this thing? Like that seems pretty interesting. Kind of seems like something out of like a 1930s science fiction novel or something like that.
Unless they're using the Microsoft Azure network, in which case they're just log in through the cloud and remote in FTP, whatever they need to do there.
Yeah, but if like a server breaks, what do you do?
Clone it, virtual hardware, make a new one.
Virtual hardware.
We're just going to virtualize the whole damn thing.
Yeah. So, Chris, I guess my question to you is, what do you think about data centers and all this sort of infrastructure being under the ocean? Do you see any complications with it?
Well, so right now, I mean, there are hundreds of international, intercontinental cables. Actually, you can go to a website called submarinecablemap.com, and it actually has, it shows from what point of origin to the terminus where these cables go around the world. And actually, Maria is already on there, so it's listed as the October 2017 Facebook, Microsoft, and Telefonica, which is the Spanish telecommunications operator. They're going to be the three owners, joint owners of it, to share information there. Now, I'm actually looking at the map right now, and going from the United States, it looks like most traffic comes out of the New York, New Jersey area and goes to the UK, and then from the UK it gets spread out all over the place, as well as from Florida to South America. But there's not much going to mainland Europe from the United States. I think there's one or two that are going from France, and then there's a couple that go out from here to Africa. So, I mean, looking at this map, at least from the transatlantic paths here, it would shorten the distance for a lot of those communications. So I think you'd have faster bandwidth and faster communications internationally. So a couple of things that worry me about another cable. Well, is this another point of attack for somebody to get my my Facebook information? Facebook is already, and Microsoft are already as insecure as possible. They are hacker targets, giant hacker targets. So is this just another way for somebody to tap it? And yes, I'm pretty certain the NSA will have a tap on it in less time. As soon as it gets 10 miles offshore and into international waters, I'm sure they'll have a tap on it. So that's one issue. In terms of the underwater data centers, I think it's smart. I mean, right now we already have water-cooled towers. We already have using large bodies of water for cooling massive infrastructure for nuclear reactors and other things that get super, super hot. So having an underwater data center, I think it's a smart thing. It's very efficient. It would be something that would be easier to maintain. The only thing is, getting it up and down, or how do you change out a blade if you need to change out a blade on a server. So those are just general technical questions on how to access it. Will it be like the floating prison that they have in Marvel's Captain America Civil War, where you see this prison that floats up out of the water and Tony Stark lands on it and goes in?
That would be awesome.
Yeah, you'd have this rising mushroom of data centers or whatever it is. It's kind of James Bond-esque, Octopussy with their underground secret villainous lair, or Marvel. But I think an underwater data center is smart. I think it's, you put it in a place where not many people will run over it. You put it in a place that's geologically stable. You can avoid a lot of ground disasters, ground-based disasters. So I think it's a smart thing, and might as well have a proof of concept to see if we can duplicate that elsewhere.
I think you'll probably see a lot more of unmanned underwater vehicles too, like when those things start to get popular, or I can see some of supply delivery and stuff like that. I don't think that would be where people are going to be going under the water. I think it will definitely need scuba divers. I guess depending on the depth, there's a depth that you just don't go to as a scuba diver, I guess. But
not in scuba, but will we end up seeing the creatures from the abyss? I think is the next question in that. Will the creatures from the abyss be our next network administrators? I mean, go in and they'll be the ones that change out everything for us.
Yeah, how are they supposed to type with the webs? Are they going to be good on we have to develop new keyboards,
or a neural port or something for it to just plug in. Little water goes into the circuitry. Yeah, exactly. It'll be a bit of an engineering challenge, but so is just about any kind of underground or underwater transportation. Just ask that with the guys of the Hyperloop, who this takes us to our engineering story of the day. Hyperloop this past week unveiled what the interior of a Hyperloop is going to look like. Now, most of you probably don't know what a Hyperloop is. I, in fact, probably didn't even know what a Hyperloop is until I started reading more into it. And there's one editor out there that says the Hyperloop is kind of like transportation's mysterious new girlfriend. You always hear about her, you never see her, but it's something awesome. The problem is, or at least the Hyperloop's general principle is, if you dug a tunnel from point A to point B, say from San Francisco to Las Vegas, or Las Vegas to LA, it's actually being targeted for development here in California. You can actually make that tunnel a giant vacuum. And in a vacuum condition, you can have a hypersonic, or not hypersonic, a very close to the speed of sound tube or train system, almost that can be shot from one point to another, going at about 700 miles an hour. Now, you have people who are traveling in a pressurized tube, moving at near sonic speeds, or just 700 miles an hour. It can be a little tight, it can be a little cramped, and the new designs of the Hyperloop cabins were displayed this week, where they have very tight quarters, but these very sleek white seats on it, nice lighting, augmented reality touchscreens, things for people to keep themselves entertained for the hour trip from San Francisco to Los Angeles. If you drive that right now, it takes about 7 hours. So now you're a seventh of the time to get from point A to point B. Andrew, what do you think about traveling in a Hyperloop? We grew up with the DC Metro, and if we pressurize that and amp the speed up about tenfold, what do you think about going in a Hyperloop?
I think it'd be cool. I think it's probably going to put the airlines out of business in terms of the flights between San Francisco and LA, which isn't a bad thing, I don't think. Keep more, it's probably less polluting than the airlines, so that's good. And yeah, traveling fast is awesome. I would love it if they did a coast-to-coast one. I hate paying lots of money uh, to fly over to the West Coast. And yeah, it's kind of, it seems kind of like when trains were first getting started in the U.S., going to each state and finally getting to the West Coast. And now it's, we already have the infrastructure to just drive, but now the new sort of barrier is the speed sort of thing. So when I was in March this year with Chris, I drove from the San Francisco area to LA, and it took a long time. If it would have taken an hour, like, that would be awesome. And I saw they had, so like Chris said, it's going to be in a tunnel. So you're not going to see the outside, which in the DC metro, it's kind of boring just to see the sidewall. But they were talking about in the Hyperloop, they'd probably have some sort of like simulated like screen on the window where it would sort of simulate that outdoors or whatever. It would be interesting to know if they were simulating it going 700 miles an hour, and you're just like, oh my God, we're going so fast. Or simulating it going like 20 miles an hour, where you're like, oh man, I'm like, God, I hope we get there on time, something like that.
Yeah, no, I'm curious what the walls would look like. I mean, in transit as well. I mean, if you're saying, oh, look, here's a nice point of interest, kind of like when you're in an airplane and you say, the captain comes on down, if you look out the left side of your window, you'll see the Grand Canyon. And if it's something interesting like that, well, you're still going by it at 700 miles an hour, twice as fast as an airplane will get you.
If you look outside, that's what we're going to see the Grand Airplane right now. Yeah. Oh, I missed it. Oh man,
they need the guy from the Micro Machines commercials essentially to provide the voiceover for those. I don't know. I mean, it's something that. Ow! Whoa! I hit my knee on the.
You're right there.
Yeah. Ow! It's on an earthquake here. It's just me being stupid. I think that traveling at high speed underground isn't what scares me. I think what scares me is the type of one that is pressurized and what happens if
is it going to be underground?
Well, they want it to be underground. It has to be underground in some parts. They have to tunnel through mountains and geological formations that they have to go through. Right. The whole thing's going to be pressurized. What happens when it loses pressure is a question that I have. How do you maintain pressure from point A to point B? Is it something that you have a hatch that closes and the solenoid snaps shut once you pass a certain place to maintain pressurization? The other thing is that the type of motor that they have on here, I mean, it's fully electric. It's not a gas powered or anything that would be emissions creating, which is nice because that means it reduces a lot of fire risk, but it's also magnetic. So what happens if you have a fail at one point in the line and you're stuck underground or you're stuck in a point on the tunnel and getting out? I think that's my biggest fear is being in a pressurized tube underground or anywhere and not being able to get out if there's a fault at some point in the line. So. I don't know.
Well, you got to worry about the same thing with airplane, right? Airplane's pressurized, and if you lose pressure, you're going to explode in the midair. So, I mean, would you rather be in an airplane and fall out of the sky, or be in a metro and just kind of like open up the door and like get out?
I don't know. I'm the airplane. Well, it's positive pressure versus negative pressure, right? In an airplane, you have greater pressure in the inside of the plane than you have on the outside of the plane. In a Hyperloop, is it a vacuum where you have similar negative pressure outside and positive pressure inside, or vice versa, where even might be part pneumatic, where air pressure is helping push you from one point to the other, kind of like the suction tubes that you would have at the bank. You used to put the tube in, it would suck it up and bring the tube over to the teller for the drive-up banking. So I mean, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of questions I don't have answered, but until those questions are answered out and they have a serious number of successful test runs. Yeah, it's going to be. I don't want to be on the pilot crew to go out there.
Yeah, I don't know who does, but actually, one group that I forget what kind of science they're involved with, but there is a group that does work well with pressure. I think they're called Queen. They have a song called Under Pressure.
Under
so,
pressure.
Yeah, they probably know something about this sort of thing.
Yeah, they might. And I hear this guy Vanilla Ice kind of. He
copied them.
Oh yeah, he copied their method. That's what.
Yeah, he infringed on their patent. All right. Speaking of other nerd stuff, so our math story for the week is a celebration in knowledge, and it is about a math bee. So many of you are familiar with the concept of spelling bees, where you show everybody that you can spell every word in the dictionary, which I was never ever good at.
And they had the spelling bee championships this past week. Congratulations to the two dual winners that they had this year.
Can you spell dual in a sentence? Anyway, so this year Edward won the 2016 Raytheon Math Counts National Championship. So every year they hold a Math Counts Math Bee in DC, and he won. And the answer that he won with was, what is the remainder when 999,999,999 is divided by 32? So he gave the correct answer, which is 31, in just under 7 seconds, and he won a $20,000 scholarship. I'm not sure if that's to a specific college. I'm guessing that it's not. It's just to be used in his future. And he also won a trip to space camp. So this kid was only 13, won the Math Bee. That's awesome. And so, yeah, excited to see that young kids are, continue to sort of astound us. Chris and I were in Phoenix, just earlier, a few weeks ago, and we got to see all the young smart kids that were at the ISEF thing. So it's great to see that kids are still sort of pushing the boundaries of what to be expected of as a 13-year-old. God, I'm trying to remember what I was doing when I was 13. It was 20 years ago.
You were up to no good.
I was
able to back up in the hood.
Yeah, so I definitely didn't win any Math Bees when I was 13 years old. And so, yeah, it's great. It's great to see that. Great to see that demonstration and of knowledge. Chris, what do you think about young kids, pushing the envelope?
Well, I think that the future of the products and things that we want to create in this world are going to are going to be developed by the next generation. The
Star Trek, the next generation.
It might be Star Trek, the next generation.
I gotta hope so.
Yeah, it depends on who's coming up with a warp drive. The things that I like that kids are inspired to compete. I like that kids are inspired to press and celebrate their knowledge in ways like math bees, spelling bees, science fairs, engineering fairs. I think the gamified or contest side of celebrating your excellence is interesting. One thing that I would rather see ways for us to have kids create versus just compute. That's one thing I liked about the Intel Science and Engineering Fair is it wasn't just let's solve a math equation, let's come out with a new theorem of or solving some Boolean double quadriles, something, who knows. I want to see an exploration that combines the creativity of the math field and the science field and whatnot, along with their aptitude. So something that makes you want to explore, makes you want to, and see kids get that excited about wanting to create, wanting to invent, wanting to explore new concepts. Not that I'm saying that math contests don't do that. I just think that there needs to be can you come up with something that these math experts can't do versus can you answer something that these math experts came up with? I want to see kind of the reverse side of that coin.
So just taking this off my nerd shelf right now. This is a portrait of me and the entire cast of Next Generation at Comic-Con. As you can see, I am super excited to be there. As you can see, it was not super. Well, okay, so he's even more excited than me is Will Wheaton. He was awesome, and Jonathan Frakes, I love you, but like he kind of ruined the shot by looking at me and not the camera. But I still love him. I still love the entire cast. That was a great opportunity.
And Patrick looks thrilled as well.
Yeah, it's got to be a long day for them. They're doing photo after photo and all those panels and like that.
Patrick and Michael Dorn both. They're just like, come on, get this one over with. yet another nerd.
Yeah, they can't be too surprised when they do that at Comic-Con, though.
Although, if I remember correctly, there's an even better picture of that one where you actually have everybody smiling at some point.
Yeah. Yep.
Anyhow.
Yeah, let's just tell the audience what I did. All right, so as you can see in here, so Commander Riker, Jonathan Frakes is looking like that, and Beverly Crusher, what's her name? Gates McFadden. She has her sunglasses on. So when I I got the print, but they also like gave you a link where you could download your picture on the internet. So they didn't, I guess they didn't really care about, privacy too much. You basically get the download link and it's like, something /123 or whatever. And if you take out the 3 and you put a 4, and then you get to see the next person's picture. And if you put a 5, then it's the person after that. So I was kind of upset that Jonathan Frakes was looking at me and not the camera. So I was like, oh, let me see like when he is looking at the camera, that sort of thing. So I ended up taking like 6 or 7 different photographs and photoshopping them all together to get everyone's best expression. And maybe I'll share that sometime. I don't have it on this computer, but it turned out really well, and you can't even tell. So,
no wonder it's a Photoshop.
Yeah, then it got me thinking maybe I shouldn't have spent $400 on that photo opportunity, and I should have just Photoshop myself anyway. But I am glad to say that I did get that actual picture with the entire cast. So, yeah.
Very cool. Well, what do you got coming up in this next week?
This next week, actually, next weekend, I might be going to cover an event either in Charlotte, North Carolina, or Durham, North Carolina. Next Saturday, which is the 4th of June, is the National Day of Civic Hacking. If you guys are interested in hackathons, go check it out. Just type in, you could probably just Google Civic Day Hacking or National Civic Day Hacking. There's a center sort of almost in each state towards the major cities, but North Carolina has 2. So if you're in a spread out state, you might have multiple ones. And it's a hackathon where it seems like it's more of like so it's civic hacking. So they tend to focus towards like solving problems like from the government sort of thing. So one of the subjects is, how do you get like making a voter app where you could like vote from your phone, or starting a small business. Like, it's usually if you want to start a small business, it's a lot of research, but this thing would be sort of like a one touch, like, send me updates on what I have to do next, that sort of thing. And it seems like more like the ideas have already been established for people that are competing, and they're just going to be working on it there. But it is sort of, you know, coding, and there's people making programs and apps and that sort of thing. So I think I'm going to go check one of those out next weekend. I'm not sure if I want to go to Durham or Charlotte. It looks like the Charlotte one is going to be a little bit bigger, but it's also farther away, and I'd probably stay the night over there. So we'll have to kind of see what's going on. But yeah, I'll probably be contacting the representatives at each one of those places and sort of preparing for that. So definitely going to go to one of them, and just not sure which one yet. So I'm looking forward to that. What about you, Chris?
You know, it's a short week for us with the holiday. That's what that thing is called. So there's not much going on actually here in the Bay Area. There's a code conference that's happening here in Silicon Valley. So if I'm lucky, I might be able to get down to the code conference and listen to some of the great people who are speaking there. There's a couple of other maker community events that are going on. Last week I tried to get over to the Maker Faire, but unfortunately we had a family issue that came up, so I couldn't go. But there's a couple of smaller maker events in the area that I might also try to make it over and talk to some of the people who not only showcase their stuff at Maker's Faire, but people who are inspired to join the maker clubs and see what people are doing. So that's on the board for next week. Not much else. You got plans for your nice long weekend?
No, I'll just be probably editing videos. Like I said, we shot one last night, unboxing a laser cutter, and so I got that one to edit and a couple more. Yeah, so Monday just doing some, you know, relaxing, that sort of thing, and sort of you know, recognizing the fallen service members of our countries. So that's what Memorial Day is all about, our fallen service members. So, you know, take some time out of your day on Monday and just kind of remember that's what Memorial Day is all about.
Yeah. Don't thank those who carried their DD-214. Thank those who were buried with it.
Okay.
Anyhow, that does it for our weekly show. Thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you like everything that you are seeing here. Check out all of our other videos. We still have a few more. I owe a couple more from the Intel Science and Engineering Fair, as Andrew nods his head excessively. But check out our videos, subscribe to our channel, check out our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. And be sure to catch us next week. In the meantime, I am Chris.
My name is Andrew, and I love Star Trek.
Yes, you do. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Take care. Bye.